You are listening to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, where each week we have a conversation with everyday martial arts practitioners. From the first motivation to train, martial arts enriches our lives and becomes a lifestyle. Welcome to the individual stories of those martial artists living that lifestyle. You are listening to the abbreviated version. For those of you checking this out on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Full-length versions of this podcast can be subscribed to at our Patreon page, is www.patreon.com/malmag. Or individual full-length episodes can be purchased at our Gumroad page at malmag.gumroad.com. Before we begin this week's program, I would like to remind you to check out martialartslifestylemagazine.com to see articles on the martial arts. Click on the Store tab to find products for the practice of Southeast Asian martial arts, featuring Timmy B's brand sticks. Check out the Courses tab, currently featuring a course on the Dos Manos method of the Filipino Martial Arts. Also check out our Places to Train page, featuring top quality martial art academies from around the world. And of course, check out our events page for seminars and events coming up around the world. To see your school listed in our Places to Train page or your event on our events calendar, contact us at malmagonline@gmail.com. This week, I sit down at the Inosanto Academy with my good friend Dr. Jason Park, and we talk about how he got involved in martial arts, how he was wanting to be a dancer, how he got into boxing and Muay Thai, how an injury got him started on his second career in the martial arts, training champions such as Anderson Silva, and much more. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, and today I'm actually sitting in Marina del Rey on a nice day listening to the birds chirp and the leaf blowers go. We're at the Inosanto Academy of Martial Arts, and that's where I met my podcast companion today. This is Dr. Jason Park. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I've been trying to twist this guy's arm to get on here for a while, but he's an awfully big arm, hard to twist.
Yeah, I think it's been at minimum 6 months getting to this point.
Has it been?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So I apologize.
No,
it's being hard to lock
never
down.
apologize. This is like, I'm so lucky. I know a lot of you folks that are very professional at all of this stuff. So you're busy people. So it's, it makes for great conversation. And obviously, I want to say you've been a phenomenal training partner for me. As Guru was saying the other night, it's nice that I have someone who's my own size to pick on.
Yeah. Same back right at you.
Exactly. Well, thank you. I guess let's just kind of start at the beginning. How did you get involved in martial art?
I was very lucky in, I am a Korean American, second generation, so first born here in the United States. I actually grew up here in the South Bay of Los Angeles, so the martial arts mecca.
Oh, wow. So you've not ventured far from home.
No.
Wow, okay.
No, I left during college time and right after college time, and then knew that LA is the place to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was by design of my parents as well, knowing that, where you go for college is one thing, where you go for your last schooling before you go to work is probably where you're going to stay.
That's true.
So they wanted me to go early so that I could come back home.
They shipped you away. Here, really, experience, go away, and then come back home.
It's really not too hard to convince yourself to stay in California. I know
that's true.
It might not seem as popular outside of California, but once you're here, it's undeniable.
Oh God!
Ocean is not replaceable.
No, it's true. Where did you go? Where'd you go to undergrad then?
So I went to a small liberal arts school called Haverford College. It's outside of Philadelphia.
Okay. So you got a good taste of winter.
Yes. Okay. And I said it was great. I experienced it.
Yeah.
I trained boxing and Muay Thai, and I would like to say not full MMA, but anti-wrestling for MMA.
Got it.
With my training partners out there, and then eventually made my long way back here to California. But to your initial question, I kind of fell into martial arts like any Korean child does, which is through the art of Taekwondo.
Okay.
That's one that I started when I was the age of 4. Both my parents, being immigrants from Korea to Los Angeles, and my father having a very busy professional career, there was really no one to help support me in traditional sports.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think I played t-ball, I played soccer, I played basketball, all at the lower levels of t-ball and the one right after that. But those team sports really require parents to help you.
Yeah.
Help practice those skills, like, you know, go outside, shoot some hoops, toss the ball. Those are things that my parents didn't really know how to provide.
Wow.
And, you know, especially being a team mom or dad or a coach, definitely not in their wheelhouse.
Right.
So what I found myself, and probably at that time not very like physically athletic or adept at being athletic, like just adjusting to the fly, I didn't get much playing time. So it was very hard to play sports in that venue. So it led me to two sports in my childhood, which was Taekwondo, which is a solo sport, as well as golf, which
Oh, wow.
having a Korean father, he taught me golf, and it was bonding time for me. So it was actually solo sports that kind of drove me early on. And when I was I did Taekwondo all the way until I was 8. Took a break for a few years and then found it again when I was 10 because I wanted to go back into sports. And Taekwondo, there's a nice thing in martial arts, which is if you win, you get more work.
Right.
If you do the work, you get more attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I always liked that, you know, that meritocracy.
Yeah.
Inside the gym. And then what led me to boxing and Muay Thai very early on was all my older brothers in the Taekwondo gym. That second one that I went back into when I was 10 years old, you know, they were 3-4 years older than me. So once I got to the age of 15, they're already graduating, going to college.
Okay.
So then I was left with this dilemma. Do I want to stay and just be a black belt and be the oldest one in the room teaching, you know, probably also beating up on the younger students
Right.
who I'm already better than, or do I want to go and challenge myself?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started looking into boxing at that time. Did a Google search back in 2002, and then found a gym called Boxing Works in Hermosa Beach.
Oh, I know that guy.
Yeah. And you know, that's why I always say I've been very lucky. I don't know if it's intuition, luck, finding a good gym wherever I needed it at that venture.
Mm-hmm.
And then the credit is seeing what's there and being able to persevere and push through and stay dedicated to it.
Right.
And so I started Boxing Works at 15. I remember going to a Saturday class for boxing. First drill was catch jabs. You know, you jab, you step back, you catch a jab, you step forward, you throw a jab, and they catch your jab.
Right.
Right. And I think it's very funny being here at the Anderson Academy, where a lot of those roots have spread, that I encountered early in my life without even knowing who Guru Dan Inosanto was, or even having the chance to train with him.
Wow.
So that's how I got to boxing and Muay Thai, and then just continued to train there. You know, it was the same thing when I went to college on the East Coast. It was a big culture shift. So my escape from studying and being from this, you know, liberal elite school, and everyone's very stressed, was to go to South Philly, go to a gym, travel 2.5 hours through the subways, and then go train there. And that's actually where I started competing. And I would go back and forth between when I was at school in Philadelphia, coming back to Boxing Works as my home here in California, spending a couple summers at Team Oyama, which was back then No Limits MMA. Who was a very famous coach who trained under Crew Rex, one of the pioneers in Southern California in training MMA athletes back in the day. And all those experiences just continued to grow and grow and grow and brought me to here.
Wow. Yeah, it was an interesting time. I mean, you were getting involved when, you know, all this stuff was really kind of growing.
Right.
And it's, you know, I've had the fortune of listening to Guru Dan on many car trips, you know, telling me about the different people in that time period that he was training with, and he was bringing up the other night. I think, were you in class? Or he was bringing up hand or hand. Hand or hand. It was they called it, I think, Real American Wrestling. They were out of El Segundo, so it was like hand or hand, and it was I think Henderson and
Randy Couture.
Randy Couture, yeah.
We had that very famous old picture at Boxing Works with Randy. And I remember it always like threw me off because I came at a really special age, I feel like, in MMA, because it was right before everything was, there's a pre and a post.
Right.
And I think that's around probably 2006 with the Ultimate Fighter. Right? But things had already been building to that moment.
Right.
There was Pride, Shuto had already came up and come down.
Right.
And Pride was taking that up, K1 was taking that up. And then in the United States we had UFC, Zuffa bought it, definitely went into a loss, and then finally found a way to take it to a profit.
Right.
And I'll give it an example of Anderson Silva, who is one of my big heroes. Definitely top 3, if not number 1, and a big influence of mine that, luckily I've had the honor to catch up with him later on in his career. But I found his first fight way before his UFC career. I was watching K1 at the time. I followed my coach Brian Popejoy's advice, which is, Brian Popejoy has all these videos on his YouTube channel of all these old Muay Thai fights. Well, he collected them when he was in Normal, Illinois. And I always joke with him, like, how did you find these?
Brian's an Illinois boy?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay, he and I are going to have a...
Blackhawks fan.
Okay, all right. Well, he's on my list to get on the show anyway, but I need to chat next time he comes by.
Yeah.
Because I grew up there. Born here in LA, but grew up there, so.
Yeah, so, I followed his advice. We had a TV that was always playing Muay Thai fights, K1 fights, and I got really enamored with K1. And then when K1 Max was coming out, I was really interested because these are smaller, faster guys, but still enough pop to knock you out. And I remember I was looking for a fight, couldn't find it. Like, I maxed out on all the K1 fights. So I asked, is there anything similar to the store owner? And this is in Mitsuwa in Torrance. A small video rental shop.
Yeah.
Japanese guy. And he said, oh, there's this event called Shuto. It's kind of similar. And, at that age, I had no idea.
Right.
And I said, okay, I'll pick it up. And lo and behold, it's just happened, and it was Anderson Silva at 170 pounds fighting his first international title fight in Japan against Hayato Sakurai.
Oh, wow.
Who I had watched in K1 and in Pride. He had a short run in the UFC, but just a little undersized, but well regarded as one of like the best well-rounded fighters of that generation, the Matt Hughes generation.
Right.
Japan generation. And so I got to see this fight and go, oh, who is this guy? I liked Hayato, and I see this like slender, black, like very athletic gentleman who came back and found a way to finish the fight in a very innovative way. And then I started following in Pride, all the way into Rumble in the Cage?
I think so.
Rumble on the Rock.
Well,
in Hawaii, where he had that magnificent knockout of Yushin Okami that led to disqualification from the guard, but it's one of the most amazing knockouts. It's like top 2, as well as with Kevin Holland knocking out Jacare from the guard. And then into Rage in the Cage, which was in England. And so I already knew who he was when he was coming to the UFC. All those things were, so that's why I say it was a perfect time where I could watch and see all these storylines start to build.
Yeah.
For when, the Anderson Silva, the George St. Pierre really revolutionized the MMA and the UFC, and then it built the company to where it is now.
Yeah.
So I'm very lucky in that I was right at the cusp where I understand a lot of these preceding things that led to that big climax. But I'm still learning now, like, the roots that I didn't even know existed. And it's beautiful. Even Boxing Works, I looked at that picture of Henderson, Randy Couture. I saw that picture of Eric Paulson for years, never knowing who he was. So why are all these people coming to Boxing Works?
Mm-hmm.
These stars. And he said, well, before the South Bay was very developed in martial arts, and everyone's kind of like, you're a jiu-jitsu school, you're a boxing school, you're a karate school.
Right.
There's no place to cross-train.
Right.
And so Boxing Works, I guess even before Brian had bought it from the previous owners, was that place where people could cross-train.
Oh, wow.
So I had no idea those were the roots that we always had. And then, of course, Brian built in a very strong boxing and Muay Thai program that still exists today.
Right. Putting out champions.
Huh?
Putting out champions.
Putting out champions at the highest level.
That's right.
So yeah, it's been an honor to know Brian since I was 15, and now being 38, it's 23 years, and continue to have a relationship with the person that brought me into the sport.
Yeah. No, that's great. You know, and I've known of that place since, oh my God, since they were not at the locations they are now, when they were more like out on PCH, like PCH, right?
Boxing Works 1.0.
Yeah.
OG.
That joint was cool. I love the way it was sort of constructed. It was like almost like two different rooms, and then the outside, and that was cool.
The closest thing that you could have to a true Thai camp setup, which was Brian's dream. But I always tell people, like, I love that gym, but there's a lot of things that create grit. Like, I know we're not having winter, but let me tell you, the winters in California are not warm.
No.
And those garage doors
No.
and those old window panes did not seal in. There was no insulation. Everything.
Oh, man.
The bags are so cold and hard to hit.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, it's so true. It's and like, folks, seriously, like if you kind of don't understand, if you're from back east, you're from the Midwest, and I know I grew up in the Midwest, so I know how, houses are constructed and how they are insulated for seasons, and it's just not here. In fact, I would almost call the front door of my apartment like what I would call a closet door.
Right.
In Illinois, you're like, I can actually see some daylight under it.
Right.
And even here at the academy, we can see a little daylight under that garage door. So,
Right.
Even if we have the door shut, you might get a little breeze.
Yeah, it's pretty tough, and
Not that we're complaining, but we're just telling you, it's not exactly.
But everyone who comes during the winter, even here to the academy, they all say the same thing.
Yeah.
I did not come prepared for this.
Yeah.
And
it's not Hawaii.
I remember when I would come back for winter break from college, I'd be coming from the snow. I was like, thank God it's gonna be warmer.
That's right.
And temperature-wise,
it was warmer.
It looks warmer, 10, 15, 20 degrees warmer.
That's right.
It sometimes feels colder.
It does, yeah. No,
so training in that environment, ooh.
I agree.
Especially our ring was outside, so that's where we did a lot of our sparring and clinch.
Man.
It was rough.
Yeah.
But it still holds a lot of special memories for me.
Absolutely.
And, even talking about today, there was one Muay Thai event. I can't remember. I think it was a Grand Prix. Can't remember Muay Thai League, but it was like a push to put all these Muay Thai events into this big show. Volkow came out, Sanchai, Julie Kitchen, Nathan Corbett. But one name that I remember on that, who came to this open workout at Boxing Works.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone took the pictures of Volkow.
Right.
Everyone took pictures of Julie Kitchen. They were the stars at the time. But one unknown fighter that signed that glove, it's an inner glove, like it's from that era. It's
right.
Like, it's super old. It's Alex Poatan Pereira.
Oh, wow.
Because he was on the undercard.
Uh-huh.
And now he's the biggest star in the UFC.
Right.
So I always tell people, like, the best way to get ahead of everything is to study the roots, the lineages,
right,
the paths that people take. And I think that's the most missed thing. They just take things at face value.
Right.
They don't research. That's what Guru Dan talks about all the time. But I was very lucky in having Coach Brian Popejoy talk about that from a very early age, and talk about watching tape, studying how they develop. And that echoes into how I think about martial arts now, how I ask questions, and even develop strategies against fighters.
Right. And I mean, we're also kind of talking about having value in the individuals that walk through the door. You might not know who they are, and they might not be necessarily someone as far as like a name today, but tomorrow they might be, or maybe they were 20 years ago.
Right.
So there's a lot of value in just the relationships you make with the people that come through the door as well.
And that's the beauty of martial arts. I think that everything is so accessible.
Yeah.
You know, part of my development that grew so fast, you know, under the tutelage of Coach Popejoy, was having people around me. And you know, if you're in a good gym, you usually will have pros, hire amateurs that if you choose to take that extra step, you have models that you can emulate.
Right.
And that's why I discuss a lot, like, lineage does matter. It's not the only thing.
Right.
It doesn't mean that, oh, just because you're from a storied franchise, that it will always be success. But there are models of success to follow.
Correct.
And I was very lucky that I had older brothers in both gyms I was training at the time. You know, Cool Hearts Muay Thai and Daddy's MMA on the East Coast, and Boxing Works in California, that I could see how I could become an even better version of myself. And one name that I put in particular, Mark Beecher, who was in the generation before me at Boxing Works. I got to see him go to Las Vegas, continue fighting, but also start coaching. He coached Kevin Ross, Forrest Griffin. I saw him start to be on The Ultimate Fighter with Forrest Griffin, take him to a light heavyweight championship, you know, work with Matt Brown, work with all these athletes that were so phenomenal. And that put in my mind the possibility, the inspiration that maybe I could coach in that way as well. And that's what led me to Black House. You know, that interest was always there. But what I always tell people is, like, it doesn't come the time that you think it will come.
Right.
You have to prepare for those moments.
Yeah. Be prepared, because they present themselves. Opportunities.
And this concludes the abbreviated version of the podcast. Please consider supporting the program by going to www.patreon.com/MALMAG and subscribing to the show. You can also purchase this individual episode or any individual episode at our Gumroad page. That's malmag.gumroad.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode with Jason Bark. Coming up next week, I talk to Dallas, Texas, and with one of the nicest ladies in martial arts, Doris Dent.
Our Malmag online store at martialartslifestylemagazine.com has a full selection of Timmy B's brand sticks for FMA and Krabiker Bong. Timmy B's brand now selling in Japan as well. Beautiful Timmy B's brand shirts and Dos Manos shirts are available. We also have sarongs, malongs, and wooden training knives. An online course in the Dos Manos method for FMA is available under the Courses tab. More courses coming soon. Check out the Places to Train tab to find schools near you, and click on the events calendar page to see what seminars and events are happening all around the world. And of course, visit our main page for articles on the martial arts. Music by Arthur J. Martial Arts Lifestyle Magazine and the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast are trademarked and copyrighted by TNT LLC.